all this talk about Drake May and is he going to transfer, and he's getting reportedly all this NIL money from this mystery suitor. So I think that might have driven the number up as well. And at the same time, you've got a team that kind of stunk, I guess would be the operative word down the stretch.
Always College Football with Greg McElroy is presented by AT&T 5G. Too much college football is never too much with AT&T 5G. Hello and welcome in. I'm your host, Greg McElroy, and we appreciate you coming to Always College Football. Along with me, as always, Jack Foster and Mark Kubiak. We so appreciate you guys coming and joining us here just a couple days away from Christmas time. We know it's crazy. We know it's hectic. We appreciate those of you that have downloaded and subscribed to the podcast and that have listened to it as you travel throughout the country to go see your loved ones, your friends, your family. We're glad that we're with you, and we very much appreciate it. We want to also just wish you guys all, thank you, a Merry Christmas. It's really been a phenomenal season. We have so enjoyed the time that we've had to spend with you. To be completely honest, like, we went and said, hey, let's try this. And we weren't sure how many people were going to be watching, how many people were going to be listening. We conservatively set a goal for ourselves that if we had like 5,000 people watch every show, then that's pretty good. That's honestly what we thought. I can remember vividly when we were having a conversation beforehand, Mark Kubiak and I, when we put our heads together and we started to think about, hey man, what does success look like in year one? He goes, well, I mean, I don't know. We'll see. And I was like, well, if we can get like 25,000 people a week, that'd be pretty good. Well, you guys have helped us tremendously. We had consecutive months in both October and November in which we went over 1 million views on YouTube, and we wouldn't be able to do that if not for you. The podcast numbers are growing. Thank you. I mean, honestly, thank you so much for all your support that you've given Always College Football up to this season. We hope that you have the most phenomenal Christmas possible with your loved ones, and wherever you're traveling to, we hope you get there safely, but know that we're going to have a happy Christmas because of our involvement with you and the content that we're able to provide on a daily basis. But we're not done here. The football season continues on. We have great games to look forward to today. We have a game to look forward to tomorrow. We got games coming up on Monday. We have a lot that we still need to unpack here in the next few days. So we'll push Christmas aside just for a moment, and we will dive back in to the college football content that we're trying to provide. Chris the Bear Fallica will join us today. We're going to talk about all the different angles that you can get, try to find some value on some of the games between now and December 28th. So we're going to hit all the games between now and then. It's today through the 28th. We're going to hit them all against the spread, picks, some leans, some plays, etc. We'll have Chris the Bear Fallica come on, and we'll have him do the 29th all the way through the 2nd. So we're going to hit all the big games with the Bear of bowl season, but today you get half those as we dive in. So let's not waste any more time. Let's talk about it. Presented by AT&T 5G. Well, he joins us every week during the regular season, but in the postseason, we get him a couple times. He's Chris the Bear Fallica. Does an incredible job breaking down these games. Had a ridiculous record against the spread this year. Let's see, Bear, if we can cap it off with some quality play in the postseason. How does that sound?
We're going to try, and one of the things that I always like to tell people for bowl season, my couple of general rules are, number one, live betting is your friend. Usually right. You'll have a much better idea on some things, live betting some games. And then in general, I put this in the column that we had up on ESPN.com last week about not being afraid to play underdogs on the money line, because around 70% of the underdogs that cover also win outright. So you're helping yourself out there. And then if you do like a favorite, don't be afraid to play a favorite on an adjusted line, which will get some plus money, because there's something along the lines of 60 or 70% of the favorites that cover the spread by at least a touchdown. And I think We've seen, of the 6 favorites that have covered so far, I think there are 4 of them have covered the spread by more than 7 points. So these things that have kind of been following over the last few years, they're all tending to kind of repeat themselves and be true throughout bowl season. So as we record this earlier in the week, those are the numbers that we have to date. So we'll see if those numbers continue throughout the week.
Where do you draw the line, Bear? For instance, you referenced just playing the underdogs on the money line. For instance, North Carolina Central plus 410, plus 405 in that vicinity as a 14-point dog. Maybe some of us had a little action on the money line there, but I can't imagine there were many.
I know a lot of people that actually did great because they were using the logic that Dion was already his mind was out at Colorado and they fell behind and they came back to win. But you're right. If you look over, I mean, last year there were 3 double-digit dogs that went outright. If you go back over the last, I have the data in front of me, over the last 6 years, you've got 7 double-digit dogs that have won outright, and you've had a lot. You've had over the last 3 years, I'm just doing the math in my head right now, last 3 years, double-digit dogs, not including this year, are 13-5 against the number. So the spread seems to have very little correlation. If it's big dog, small dog, if you like the dog, money line, a little bit of a sprinkle there is the way to go.
Yeah, I do think that it's definitely an interesting play. And like you said, I mean, if you can figure out and get a tip on who's playing, who's not playing, who's up for the game. My general rule up until the last couple of years was always like, all right, underdogs are I'm just take every dog. Like just play every dog, take the points. If you want to split it up, half unit on the points, half unit on the dog money line, do it that way, however you see fit. But I feel like more often than not, Bear, and you tell me, what is, in not excluding playoff games, excluding those, on average, what do the dogs do in bowl games, relatively speaking, against the spread?
I'm going back the last few years. Let's see, last year, favorites were 22-15-1, COVID year 15-11, 2019, 2019-1. Year before that, where dogs actually had a winning record. Year before that was 500. Year before that, dogs dominated 25-14. So it's kind of hit and miss. I think in general, favorites tend to cover just a little bit, but it's not like any clear trend where if you play every favorite, you're going to come out and win out. But I do think if you play every dog on the money line, I think that's probably the best way to go about making money. If you're just looking to just have a flat mindset coming into bowl season, play dogs on the money line, and you'll probably come out ahead. Because it's funny, you were talking about trying to play amateur psychologist about who's going to play and who's not. We saw a couple of great examples in the opening weekend of bowl games about that. Like everyone knew that Anthony Richardson in Florida was going to be decimated by opt-outs, and that number I played Oregon State at 6.5 before the move, and that worked out great. On the other hand, everybody kind of got wind that Jaron Hall and BYU weren't going to have a bunch of guys, so that I bet SMU at 2, and then bought some BYU back at 4.5, and obviously the 2 still didn't matter to get any closing line value there at all because BYU was dogged and won outright. So even though sometimes you get the information about who may play and who may not going to play, it doesn't always work out where the information and the move does wind up panning out in the end.
Yeah, I feel like if you're chasing the line and if you see the big steam move, it might not be – you never know who the backup is. I mean, the backup might be pretty good.
Correct.
We just don't know about him yet.
Look at Purdue.
Louisville's a good example.
Yep. Yeah. Look Louisville this year. Look at Purdue last year. Like when the world now has LSU because all the opt-outs Purdue has this year. But remember, what was the year they had? Last year against Tennessee, where Purdue had people sitting out, and that line got bet. I think from like Tennessee -1 to like Tennessee -7, and Purdue, even with all the players being out, still wound up winning the game outright. So you never do know how some of the players who are going to get an opportunity to play in bowls might seize that moment and might be in a better position to win than some of the starters might be.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense, Bear. Well, let's get into some of the games today and then a few of the games to look forward to here in the next week or so. Let's get and start with Houston and Louisiana. I really don't know how to play this. I have not liked Houston in bowl games traditionally. I just don't feel like that's a team that rises up for bowl games. I know they've had some tricky matchups. The one that really stands out was a few years ago against Army. I think they lost 100-0.
Wasn't that beautiful? Exactly that was. I financed, I think, 2 vacations off of that game.
It was a lot to a little, to say the least. Louisiana's getting 6.5. Bear, when I look at this game, it's almost as if I like very much just hopping on Louisiana as the money line dog. I get plus 220. I mean, okay, you could take the 6.5, you could take the 7, wherever it ends up, or I can get paid 2 to 1 or so on what might be an outright upset with a team in Houston that's been very hit or miss. Now, they're better, don't get me wrong, but I don't know. I mean, can you back Houston in a spot like this?
No, not at all. I think if you look at Houston this year, they're a team that disappointed, and we believe that Dell and Toon are going to play. But at the same time, you look at Danner Holgerson's track record in his bowl games, and in his teams in bowls are 2-7 against the number, 3-6 straight up, and in 4 of their last 5 bowl games, they've lost by at least 2 touchdowns. And if you look at the 5 games in which Holgerson's teams entered as a favorite, 3 resulted in losses, 2 by double digits, and 2 resulted in wins by 1 and 4 points. So again, every situation is different, and you don't want to just rely on statistics and trends from the past to wager a handicap a ball game. But that tells me there's something there with the way he handles ball games, gets his team ready for ball games, and his players perform in ball games. And now you got a team in Louisiana that's going to be playing in the state of Louisiana in Shreveport. You'd assume that they're going to have whatever crowd is there will be Raging Cajun fans. So yeah, I'm with you. I think this is both Louisiana plus the points and a bit on the money line as well.
Yeah, I'm with you there. Another nice game looking forward to tonight. Wake Forest and Missouri. Line opened Wake Forest as a field goal favorite. It's been bet down some, but it kind of hovers, under 3, between 1 and 3 or so. To me, I just don't like Missouri that much, but I do think they can disrupt their defensive line against Wake Forest offensive line. Is not a good matchup at all for Wake Forest offensively. I like Wake Forest in the game, but this is one I'd probably stay away from. If I had to play it was an action play, I'd take the Deeks. Would you kind of fade the steam here?
Yeah, I don't really like the game at all either. This would be, if I were doing one of those bowl confidence pools, this would be a very low Wake Forest play for me. I kind of want to see Wake Forest win because I don't like I don't know ultimately what wind up happening, but the fact that Missouri and Kansas aren't playing in the bowl game for whatever reason you want to say, that's kind of weak. These bowl games are exhibition games. They don't mean anything. Why not create a buzz for your fan bases and have 2 rivals that don't play for a long, long time? You got an opportunity to play and you're not. I mean, that's what bowl season should be like. Try and generate interest for these bowls, and they're not. But I'd also like to see Sam Hartman and the Deeks go out with the win. So, yeah, this would be a low-confidence Wake Forest play.
Yeah, I don't have any feel for that one whatsoever. I mean, like I said, action play, I'm taking Wake Forest, especially with Hartman. Leadership angle, I think, is there. But I don't know. I don't like their matchup in the trenches whatsoever. Let's get to the games.
I don't. You're right. Even though I will say this, I mean, they did put up, 40 points or whatever it was against Clemson earlier in the year. So that they have had success offensively against pretty good defenses.
No, that's fair. I do think they can neutralize it a little bit, but this is a very disruptive group for Missouri. So I don't know. We'll see. It'll be interesting. Like I said, I take the Deeks, but I don't love it whatsoever. Middle Tennessee against San Diego State. This game's tomorrow night, Christmas Eve. Very excited about what this game kind of sets up. I like the matchup quite a bit. San Diego State got hot. Middle Tennessee has had their moments this year. San Diego State about a touchdown favorite at the moment. To me, Bear, maybe I'm a prisoner. I called the Hawaii Bowl years back. San Diego State took the opening kick.
No. I'm gonna time out here because you always used to get on me about oh, you guys will be calling that game during. Oh, you guys will be calling the Vegas Bowl, or you'll be call. Oh, I used to call the Hawaii. Okay,
I
you
called
used to
it
get to
once.
go to
It was a long
Hawaii.
time ago. I would
Okay,
rather
all right,
call the
all
Vegas
right.
Bowl.
Okay.
But I mean, I called it once, and I remember it vividly. San Diego State took the opening kickoff back. I believe it was Rashad Penny, actually, that took the opening kickoff back. And Tommy Tuberville-led Cincinnati Bearcats got beat 100-0.
Well,
So
there you also there you go. That sentence also explained a lot.
yeah. So
There was a lot of licking the stamp and mailing it in at the end of the Tuberville era in Cincinnati.
that is very real. I get the sense. I like San Diego State. I think they want to finish on a high note. Is a team that played really well down the stretch. Like I said, touchdown favorite. I don't love laying this many points, but I would just have to take the Aztecs in this spot, knowing that I feel like they're the team that's a little bit hotter coming into the bowl season.
I'm on the other side here. I'm taking middle plus the points, and I'll take a little middle on the money. I mean, look, they blown out Miami. They won 4 or 5 down the stretch to get to a bowl. And I know that San Diego State, since the coaching change, was a little bit better. But it's still a team that put up just a field goal against Air Force,
right.
14 against UNLV. And I think this is a team that we just kind of are expecting because of the success that they had in the past with some of the backs that they had and some of the defensive players that they had, that we think that that's kind of what they are now. But it really isn't. Now, look, there is a chance, like you said, that middle could be out there on vacation. But that also gives you an opportunity to, if you play middle, plus the points are on the money line early, and it's apparent that the game is going to go the favor of San Diego State, that you can buy back on the Aztecs there, and you'll pay a little bit more. But if the game is pretty obviously going to go in another direction, you'd be in good shape. But I don't think the Aztecs offense is that great. Again, Middle's defense is no great shakes by any means whatsoever. I just think taking points, pre-kick going into the game, if you had to make a pre-kick play, I think taking the points is the right move here.
Yeah, I can get on board with that. Like I'm not gonna discourage you from taking a touchdown or more, like ever. I'm just never gonna do that. But I do think San Diego State. I just get the sense, like you said. I mean, middle rally down the stretch. Both teams rally down the stretch. San Diego State was looking awful there for first month of the season or whatnot. So things looked a little bit better down the stretch. I just think San Diego State, and I'm a believer in the Mountain West. Maybe I'm crazy. I love the league. I think they're really good. I saw it firsthand with Fresno in LA a couple weeks back. So I'm telling you, I just think that that's a very real league. And we've seen it with Boise. I think in the regular season they did. I agree with you. In the regular season, while I agree, and I think San Diego State was part of the reason why they were somewhat disappointing. Them, San Jose State, like a couple teams that you had high expectations for, didn't play great. Fresno got out to a 1-4 start, right? I mean, I think that there were some hiccups early. Boise was a mess, I mean, it's just, so I think that Utah State was terrible. I mean, I think that there were, some teams that we were kind of relying on didn't play well, but come bowl season, it's going to be the revenge of the Mountain West. And we're going to be looking at it at the very end like, okay, this is a pretty legit group, so to speak. So we'll see. I'm going San Diego State. You're going Middle Tennessee.
Yes.
Let's go next. New Mexico State and Bowling Green. What a great story for both these teams. Teams that we don't see in the bowl game very often. Yep. How do you not pick Jerry Kill here? Like, tell me how you don't pick Jerry Kill. Now, I think Bowling Green is the better team, but I don't like MAC teams and bowl games. Like, I got to go Jerry Kill, no?
Yeah, I think you have to as well. I mean, BG's been a great story getting bowl eligible, and so has New Mexico State been a great story getting bowl eligible. I mean, this is about as lopsided of a spread and money play as there is. I mean, the game opened, I think, at New Mexico State -1, and I think it's Bowling Green -4. So we see where all the money is, and we see where all the action is. It's on BG, and I think logically that is the way to think. But now that I always get, again, I have no data on this because I don't have opening numbers in my database. I only have closing numbers, but I would love to know what the ATS mark is on teams that open up as a favorite and wind up closing as a dog. I would think that it probably favors a team that opens as the favorite. And usually that's how I would land in a game like this. Is I trust the opening number more than I do the barrage of money and tickets that are going to come in on certain sides, especially in bowl season when it looks like it's too good to be true. It usually is.
Right. Plus, I get I see steamy moves like that because of a guy opting in or opting out. But it's not like, oh well, hey, New Mexico State's without their right guard. Like, hey, they're move the line 4 points. Like, let's adjust it. No, I'm with you. Plus, I just think Jerry Kill. Look, Scott Leffler's done a great job. No denying that. But Jerry Kill and New Mexico State feels like, all things being equal, without a shadow of a doubt, they are fired up to be in that position. I mean,
and they'll be prepared. And I think people, too, are looking at the game being played in Detroit. So,
Sure.
You're going to have a large contingent of BG fans there. And that, in theory, will help the MAC representative in that game. Because how many people are going to make the trip from Las Cruces to Detroit for a ball game? We'll see.
Yeah, will be very, very interesting. All right, a couple more that we need to get to. We're going to have you back next week or whatnot. So we're going to go through the games on the 27th and the 28th before we get you out of here. So let's start with Georgia Southern and Buffalo. This one, to me, surprised me on the open. Opened up Georgia Southern, 3-point favorite, hovering around there, slightly north of that now. I think Kyle Van Treese has been a good addition for Georgia Southern. He was at Buffalo, has a good understanding of who Buffalo is. Like, the quarterback dilemma there is interesting, but I don't feel like Buffalo's getting any respect in this spot, and I'm trying to figure out where the infatuation is with Georgia Southern. They've had good moments. Obviously, we know beating Nebraska is a good moment, but I don't know, man. It's been just a little bit up and down to me with the Eagles. Which way? Like, I would take the points here. I don't feel great about it, but I would take the points.
I put 3 games in the column on ESPN.com. They were Louisiana plus 6.5, Middle Tennessee plus 7, and Georgia Southern minus 3.5.
Really?
I like the Eagles here. I mean, I think the reason is you look at what Buffalo has been late in the year, the injuries that they've had in the Bulls' backfield. Very, very fortunate to even be here. They needed a near miracle to beat Akron in the rescheduled regular season finale. This is a team that I don't think has much going for it right now. And I talked about it how at Ford Field you were going to get a majority of BG fans. This will be a situation too with Georgia Southern where whatever fans are going to be there will make the trip on over. You would think from Georgia Southern to Montgomery.
Yeah.
So look, I think with Van Treese and that offense that put up 51 on App State to get to the 6th win, I think the momentum, the trajectory of the season, the way the teams ended the year, and probably the injury, I think everything kind of points Georgia Southern here.
So well, that's what threw me off. That's why the line kind of stunk. That's why I was kind of like, I don't know. I mean, it just felt like everything, like you said, everything that you just laid out, it feels like it should be Georgia Southern 6, 7, 8 points, not 3.5, right?
I don't think you can go that high in this game. No, I think that'd be a little high.
Telling me the power ratings aren't all over the Eagles.
I was going to say I don't think the old Sun Belt MAC game there is those power ratings will be too true. Plus, I think it's hard to really know how healthy Van Treese. I mean, he obviously played much better against App State, but he'd been a little nicked up before then, and you just don't know about Buffalo and if those backs are going to be back.
All right, moving on. Utah State and Memphis. This line has really kind of thrown me off a bit. Opened at 9.5 in some places. At Memphis being favored 9.5, down all the way to 7.5. To me, I don't know what is making anybody like Utah State in the game. Like Memphis, I know they're inconsistent, but man, I can't get behind taking the points, and yet we've seen a steamy move in favor of Utah State. So help me understand what's going on there.
I can't. This is a total no play for me. I can't really offer anything on this game because I don't know. I couldn't get behind either team in this game. My general thought again, when in doubt, either just in line with Memphis or Utah State money line, and see what happens.
There you go. Little action play. Little action play
Exactly.
there. How about East Carolina and Coastal? This thing says East Carolina for the limit, which has me a little bit thrown off. Like Coastal, Grayson McCall in the portal, losing their coach. They just got absolutely housed the last time we saw them. Coastal's kind of been a little bit fraudulent all year long, it feels like, in some ways. So I don't know how you don't just put the mortgage on East Carolina here. Talk me out of it.
Yeah, I would agree with you as well. I mean, ECU had the ball game canceled. So I think that's an opportunity for them to go out here on a winning note. And like you said, with Chadwell leaving and McCall staying, transfer portal, but he's playing. Yeah, I don't think this Coastal defense is very good either. So I could see this being at the very least, you play East Carolina team total over. But I'm with you. I think this could get potentially ugly. I think ECU will win by double digits.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you as well. Oklahoma State and Wisconsin putting a bow on the games in the 27th. This is a late night action, 10:15 Eastern kick. Opened up 3.5 for Wisconsin, steady there. Circa actually had it as a pick 'em early on. Now is steamed obviously in favor of the Badgers. To me, it's kind of a no play. I don't trust Oklahoma State. I do think some of the young players that were thrust into the lineup, they might be better in this spot, but I don't like either team. I mean, I feel like both teams, disappointing finishes. Wisconsin, more specifically, very disappointing finish. So by losing their last two, I want badly to have a little bit of action in this game because I'm excited to watch it, but it could be one where I'm left covering my eyes. I don't like one or the other. So I'd lean Oklahoma State because I want the points, but man, I don't feel great about it.
Yeah, and these are typically traditionally two very good teams in ball games. I mean, Oak State has won 5 of the last 6 covered straight, all been close games. Wisconsin has had a ton of success, and the only loss they've had recently was that 1-point loss to Oregon in the Rose Bowl. But again, new coaching staff there. Have we officially heard about Spencer Sanders yet for Oklahoma State?
No.
I'm assuming that he's not going to play, but we don't know that for sure. So it's hard for me getting involved. If I had to play the game, I'd play Oklahoma State because I just don't know about where Wisconsin is kind of mentally right now with guys transferring out, new head coach in, Jimmy Leonard on the way out as well. So it's kind of a weird deal here. I think in a game like this, I would probably trust Oklahoma State just a little bit more, but it's certainly just a guess more than anything else.
No doubt about it. All right, let's run through these pretty quickly here on the 28th. Got 4 games that day. Very much looking forward to the slate, too, I might add. One of my favorite games of the entire calendar is here on the 28th. That's Arkansas and Kansas. That's the Liberty Bowl. Right now, Arkansas opened up as a 4, 5, 5.5 point favorite. That line's down to 3. It's Kansas for the limit for me.
Yes.
And it's money line too.
Yes. Oh yeah. No, they're and that's the only side I can play. Team that hasn't been in the bowl in forever against a team of a disappointing season, and now you're favored. I undergoing some changes there as well. Yeah, this is KU for the limit for me as well.
Yeah, same page. All right, UCF and Duke. I don't know how to play this one. It's a stay away. I think both teams can score. You could talk me into the over. That's about the only thing I think I'll let you talk me into on this game. I don't particularly care for either side, and I'm just not 100% sold on Duke. If for whatever reason John Rice I think Mike Elko will have a good plan for UCF, and he's no stranger to Gus Malzahn. He's seen him several times when he was the DC at Texas A&M. So part of me leans Duke if I had to play it, but man, I don't laying points with this team against a team that can score makes me anxious.
Yeah. That's hard to do as long as Plumlee's healthy. Again, this is another one that crossed over 0. UCF opened up 2.5 point favorite. Now they're a dog. the fan in me would love to see Duke win, with Elko having the great first season as a head coach. It really went unnoticed for a good part of the year, but I kind of get the sense that UCF is probably the right side in this game. I'd wait on the total until obviously seeing about weather, being that the game's going to be in Maryland. You never know what the weather could be like there in late December. So while I do agree with you on the over, the last thing you'll want is a bad weather game and you're sitting there holding over 63, and you're kind of sitting there like, what the heck did I do?
That's a fair point, without question. North Carolina and Oregon, really good game, intriguing matchup, good quarterback matchup between Bo Nix and Drake May. This line kind of tripped me out initially. When I saw it open, I was like, is this a mistake? 2 touchdowns? Oregon's favored by 2 touchdowns against North Carolina?
Yeah, I think at that time when it opened, there was a lot of discussion about all this talk about Drake May and is he going to transfer, and he's getting reportedly all this NIL money from this mystery suitor. So I think that might have driven the number up as well. And at the same time, you've got a team that kind of stunk, I guess would be the operative word down the stretch. Losing at home to Georgia Tech is a big favorite, getting blown out in the ACC title game, losing again to NC State that gets a 4th-string quarterback. They kind of got everybody excited earlier in the year, and you wonder maybe if Drake May hit a little bit of a freshman wall. Now look, Justin Flo is gone from Oregon.
Yeah.
That obviously will hurt. By the way, how about that get for Arizona? I mean, that would not have been where I thought Justin Flo would have landed. I would not have thought he was going from Eugene to Tucson. I would have thought that was either going to be SC Miami, or he was going to go reunite with himself with Mario down in Miami. Yeah. So, I mean, that was interesting. But I would kind of play Oregon here just because I don't think I think Carolina was a little bit smoke and mirrors, for the lack of a better word, and I could see the Ducks.
2 touchdowns?
Yeah, it's a lot. I know that, but I just the way Carolina finished the year, and you would have thought that if they were going to show anything and they were going to bounce back, an opportunity to go to the Orange Bowl against the Clemson team, who you're probably not going to get a better chance to beat for quite some time. Like, it was there in front of them, and to get throttled by Clemson. And now you're going out here, a bowl that obviously Mac Brown is very familiar with. It seems like Texas was in that bowl game quite a few times when he was second fiddle to Oklahoma back in the Big 12 days. But those are some great games, by the way. I mean, I remember there were some great Texas-Oregon Holiday Bowls.
Oh, yeah.
Texas-Washington, I think, was like that used to be a great game, but I don't think this is going to be one of them. I like Oregon pretty big here.
Holiday Bowl used to be one of the best games ever. Yes. When it was Pac-12, Big 12, man, it was a great game and a great destination as well. Speaking of an old Holiday Bowl participant, Texas Tech, I remember when they went off against Cal there in the early mid-2000s or so. Yep. Sonny Cumbie had an incredible game out there.
Yeah, that was the year that Cal should have been in the BCS, and that was when more like politics went into play, and Texas actually wound up getting into a bowl game instead of Cal, and Cal absolutely licked the stamp in that Holiday Bowl and got absolutely worked.
They got destroyed. But hey, those were fun days as a young Texas Tech commitment and recruitee. So it was fun watching them tear up Cal that day and watching Aaron Rodgers.
Segue, by the way, that was a very nice tribute you had to a nice little story about Mike Leach.
Oh, I appreciate it.
Recruited by Tex. I enjoyed hearing that, because everyone seems to have a Mike Leach story, and that was a very unique one. And I know we're a couple of weeks after his unfortunate passing, but he was someone. Why we love college football, one of the many reasons why we do, is because of all the different characters that there are in this sport, all the uniqueness about coaches, players, rivalries, and he was a character.
There's no doubt.
And I can remember being up with game day when we went up there, and there was that picture of his head on the Costanza body, and like he wanted the sign, and he wound up getting the sign and putting the sign in his office. So that's the ridiculous nature that he, and it was great. So sad story, but yeah, I just wanted to. Your story that you shared about him and kind of him kind of giving you the Heisman when after he hadn't seen you in a while was
completely never as if he'd never seen me before ever. But hey, that was him, man. What's funny is Seth Luttrell actually corrected me on that, saying, yeah, actually he really did forget. If you committed somewhere else, he really would like purposefully forget you. I was like, I don't know if I buy that, Coach, but you're covering for Coach Leach. I understand that. Either way, it was a good bit, that's for sure. All right, finally, we'll put a bow on it with this, Bear. Last game today, Ole Miss and Texas Tech. I would say Ole Miss for sure. They played so bad down the stretch, but it felt because they were distracted, right? It felt just they were, is he going to go? Is he going to leave? Now he's affirmed his commitment to Ole Miss. But I get the sense that Texas Tech is a team that's going to play they're going to play great as an underdog. Obviously, they are going to be able to throw all over the yard. You have a veteran quarterback in Tyler Shuck. He's been around quite a bit. Texas Tech has me spooked after their performance last year. I thought Mississippi State was a lock, stock, and barrel, and Texas Tech schooled them. This, I think, is what makes me a little bit hesitant. I'm almost hesitant to just take Texas Tech on the money line overall. But, man, something tells me that Ole Miss is going to play a really good game after playing terrible in the final month.
Yeah, I do. I think you are going to get a much better play from the Rebels in this spot, and I would lean towards taking Ole Miss here because I think you're right. I think all of is Lane staying, is Lane going, Egg Bowl. You come so close to beating Alabama, and you don't. I think there are a lot of things that were just going on there. And again, this is a team that gave up a bunch of points to OU. Yes, they did win, but I could see that Ole Miss running game having a really successful time against Tech, and I think they could bounce back from that late season swoon where all the stuff, like you said, going on off the field. So I'd lean towards laying the points here with Ole Miss.
Yeah, I think that's the side, Bear. We'll see. We will see, but I definitely think that's the side. Great stuff, man. Great stuff. Really, really appreciate you. Thanks so much for taking the time this week. We got a ton of games coming up here today all the way through next week, but we'll get you back on again to preview the game from the 29th all the way through the 2nd. So we appreciate you, brother. Thanks so much.
Absolutely. I hope everybody out there has a Merry Christmas.
Let's Talk About It is brought to you by AT&T 5G. Too much college football is never too much with AT&T 5G. This episode is brought to you by AT&T, official sponsor of the College Football Playoff. Is checking your team stats at 2 a.m., watching highlights while eating with buddies, or catching the game during a wedding all too much? Nope, because too much college football is never too much. And AT&T 5G keeps you connected all season long. 5G requires compatible plan and device. 5G may not be available in your area. See AT&T.com/5G for you for details. College football bowl season is here, and Dr. Pepper and the residents of Fansville invite you to revel in another one-of-a-kind year of flexing your foam finger, humming your school's fight song in your sleep, and thriving on a steady diet of buffalo chicken dip and post-game commentary, all washed down with a rich, delicious Dr. Pepper, of course, and another game is always just around the corner. So make sure your tailgate doesn't turn into a failgate and pick up a case of ice-cold Dr. Pepper, the one fans deserve. Final thoughts as we put a bow on the show here on the 23rd of December. Like I told you earlier in the show, we can't tell you how much we appreciate you. Thank you so much. We hope you have an incredible holiday with your friends, with your family, with your loved ones. Hope that you're enjoying the show wherever you're getting the show, and we hope that you'll come back here in the new year with us because 2023 is going to be way better than 2022, and 2022 has already felt pretty dang good. So very much excited for what's coming here on Always College Football, but also very, very grateful to all of you that have helped make college football this season even more gratifying than it's ever been because we get to interact on a one-on-one basis. So thank you for all that you do. Thank you for all that you'll continue to do for the show here in the days and weeks to come. But if I can ask you to do one more thing, please like, rate, and subscribe. That'd be really helpful. It helps the show. It helps us out. So thank you so much for being with us. Travel safe. Enjoy the games this weekend. And I very much, like you, I'm looking forward to some of the games coming up next week as well. So enjoy it. Take it all in. Soak it up. And have a great, great, great holiday weekend. We'll be back next week. We're going to take Monday off. Feel like we should, right? We're also going to take off Tuesday, but we'll be back and we return with a vengeance on Wednesday next week. We're going to preview all the games. We're going to get Chris the Bear Fallica to come back. He's going to help pick us some games. We're going to talk a lot coming up as we preview the semifinals, preview the New Year's Six, preview all the big matchups. So a lot coming to you here 5 days from now. But if you're here looking for shows on the 26th and the 27th, if you can't find them, don't feel bad. They don't exist. For all of us here at Always College Football, we love you and we appreciate you. For Jack Foster, Mark Kubiak, I'm Greg McElroy. This has been Always College Football with Greg McElroy, presented by AT&T 5G. Too much college football is never too much with AT&T 5G. Hey guys, it's Greg McElroy. Thanks for watching Always College Football. Make sure you like, rate, and subscribe to ESPN's YouTube channel and wherever you listen to your podcasts.